Hey everyone, I'm the Doom Dog, and welcome to another Doom Dog review. Today we are taking a look at Resident Evil 5. After the massive backlash that Resident Evil 6 got, it's easy to forget that Resident Evil 5 did face a similar, but smaller backlash. People said it strayed too far from what 4 and previous games were, and that it wasn't a real Resident Evil game. Was the backlash warranted, or is this game good in its own right? Let's take a closer look. In Resident Evil 5, you play as Chris Redfield, one of the two main characters of the first game. He is now working for an anti-biological terrorism group called BSAA, and he has been dispatched to Africa to investigate an incident there. Jill Valentine, the other main character of the first game, has been killed off-screen between games. So he has a new partner in this game. In Africa, he partners up with a woman named Sheva, and she will be with you throughout the entire game. After you meet up with her, you enter a run-down town in Africa and meet up with your contact there who supplies you with weapons and ammo to get you started. Shortly thereafter, everything quickly goes to hell and the entire town seems to turn on you all of a sudden. The storytelling really takes off from there. For the most part, it's kinda hard to predict exactly where this story will go. There is one plot twist that you should see coming from a mile away though. This game gives you lots of lore on the history of Umbrella. If you take the time to read the various notes in the game, and there are a lot of them, you will get a rather lengthy and detailed history of Umbrella and their actions leading up to the T-Virus outbreak in Resident Evil 2. If you happen to like the lore, there is plenty here to get invested in, and it is worth taking the time to read through them at least once. Having said that, this is a Resident Evil plot. You should expect a certain B-movie quality in terms of writing. Much like the games before, the story here is stupid. This definitely has a jump the shark moment at the end of the game as well. Given that this is a Resident Evil, that says a lot about how absurd this game gets at one point. Don't get me wrong, the plot is entertaining in an action-packed grindhouse B-movie kind of way, it's just very stupid. No one really plays these games for the plot anyway. This is a 7th generation game. It is close to 10 years old at this point. When it was released, it was an absolutely gorgeous game with beautiful and highly detailed African landscapes, top-notch character models, and plenty of blood and gore to satisfy horror fans. In its day, it was definitely a looker, but 9 years is a long time. Not every game from its day holds up all that well. How does this one look? The answer is that it holds up surprisingly well. When you get up close and get a really good look, you will notice that there are a lot of lower resolution textures, and you will notice that shadows look fuzzy. You will see plenty of jagged edges that would not be there on more modern games, especially on the console version. But when you are running around, killing enemies, and engaging in the fast-paced action, you probably won't notice much of that. It will still look good. It has held up surprisingly well over the years. It is worth noting that you're looking at the PC version of the game. This is the best that the game can look, and it's not demanding nowadays. You can fairly easily run this on the highest graphical settings with a rock-solid 60 frames per second. The only time that the frame rate will drop is the second or two after you load a new area when it's still rendering everything. It quickly clears up and goes right back to a silky smooth 60 though. The original console version does hold up pretty well. It's not a massive downgrade from this. It is a 720p and 30 FPS game though. If you are a console-only gamer, however, there is a PlayStation 4 and Xbox One version that is comparable to this. It runs at 1080p resolution and 60 frames per second. When you look at them side by side, you will notice how well the original does hold up, but the 60 FPS does make a difference when you actually play it. It plays a lot smoother and just feels better. If you are going for horror, the single most important aspect of the game that you absolutely have to get right is the sound design. The basement music in Resident Evil Director's Cut aside, Capcom has a long history of hitting the nail squarely on the head in this regard. They practically make an art form out of good sound design, and it's a large part of why the Resident Evil franchise has been a standard bearer for the horror genre pretty much since day one. Getting the sound design right is absolutely crucial in making a game like this work. Resident Evil 5 knocks it out of the park in this regard. This game has plenty of grunts, groans, moans, yells, and shrieks from the enemies to keep you on your toes. There are plenty of gross, slimy, squishy noises when you fight things like boss monsters. Shotgun blasts sound deadly. The machine gun and pistol can sound a little weak, but it's not that bad. Sniper rifles sound good too. The audio quality on the dialogue and everything else is clean, clear, and crisp, and it is mixed well into surround sound. Beyond that, Resident Evil 5 features another ambient soundtrack. Like many ambient soundtracks, it is really not full of memorable tracks because it is not designed to be catchy. It is meant to be intense and spine-tingling, and it definitely does ramp up the intensity when you are beset on all sides by enemies. It's a good soundtrack in that sense, and it does its job quite well. It establishes a great mood and atmosphere for the game. You just won't find yourself humming any of these tracks, and that's fine. What you are here for, though, is the gameplay. Resident Evil 5 plays pretty much identically to Resident Evil 4. It's a third-person shooter with an over-the-shoulder camera, and you have to stop and take aim every single time you shoot at enemies. There are minor puzzles to solve, but most of the game is spent shooting enemies. You get new weapons and items to help you along your way. The focus on puzzle solving that this series is known for is seriously downplayed in this game. Most of the puzzles here are very simple and do not require much thought to solve. You won't have a lot of puzzles breaking up the action like the previous games did. To make up for that, the game focuses more on action than any previous Resident Evil. This was a big focus of the backlash against this game. This is much less of a horror game than any previous game, and much more of an action game. This game simplifies the upgrade and sales system as well, where Resident Evil 4 had you gather individual components to piece together to make items that you would sell for a higher price. Resident Evil 5 does nothing like that. You just collect items that sell for profit to upgrade your guns. There's also no merchant. You can sell and upgrade items between levels. The actual act of upgrading, buying, and selling items is pretty much the same though. The game also simplifies inventory management. You can store things for later use if you wish, but you can only carry a set number of items. Every item you carry takes up one inventory slot, so healing sprays take up the exact same amount of space as a shotgun. It makes no sense really, but that's how it was done prior to 4. It's hard to complain as a result. I will say that I do prefer inventory management in 4 for the most part though. Unlike Resident Evil 4, you cannot use yellow herbs in your healing items to increase your overall health. You have the same amount of health at the beginning as you do at the end. It never increases, so you lose that sense of progression that was in Resident Evil 4. It's unfortunate, but I wouldn't call it a major loss that holds the game back in any significant way. I still would have liked to have seen it implemented here though. The other major change that this game makes is that it is built from the ground up to be a co-op experience. Remember when I said that Sheva was with you for the entire game? Well, she is not there in the same sense that Ashley was in the previous game. She is there the entire time fighting alongside you. A friend could take control of her and play through the game, and that is how we played it for the Let's Play. Co-op mostly manifests itself in a partner taking control of Sheva for the entire game and fighting alongside you. The simple puzzles in the game are frequently designed around both of you acting together, and there are certain doors that you have to both be at in order to progress. You can also trade items with each other in case one of you is running low on supplies, and the game will warn you when your partner is in trouble and needs your help. In typical co-op fashion, the game is more fun to play through with a friend than it is on your own. You do lose some of the intense atmosphere, but that's just a byproduct of having a friend to share the experience with you. It's the kind of thing that can't be helped. As mentioned previously, the game does have a bigger focus on action, and this presents the game's biggest problem. It still controls like a survival horror game. Capcom ramped up the action in this game, and they did not think about improving the control scheme at all to better suit the action-focused gameplay. The fact that you cannot move while shooting sticks out like a sore thumb in this game. It is absolutely baffling to me. When Capcom made the PlayStation 1 classic horror game Dino Crisis, they knew that the dinosaurs would tend to move faster than the zombies did in Resident Evil. They compensated for that by letting you move your character while aiming your weapon. It made the game a lot less frustrating than it would have been otherwise as a direct result. What the fuck happened here? You got it right in the 5th generation, leaving this feeling like there is zero excuse for it not being able to move while aiming in this game. It does not ruin the game, but it is frustrating and will almost certainly get you killed at some point. The game has one other major flaw, and that's the partner AI. To put it simply, Sheva is not smart in this game. She can and probably will frustrate you at some point as you're making your way through the game. She can do things like use health items too often or refuse to pick up ammo to keep firing at enemies unless you flat out tell her to do it. At times it can suck all the joy out of playing through the game single player, and it is such a shame because the game is so well paced and intense otherwise. It can be a lot of fun. Co-op is really the best way to play through Resident Evil 5 though. In terms of replay value, this game does have a fair bit of it. There are treasures to collect and sell, weapons to buy, find, and upgrade, special weapons to unlock, notes to read, multiple difficulties to play on, and it can be played both single player and multiplayer. The game definitely is not lacking in replay value. It is also not all that long. It shouldn't take you more than 10 to 12 hours to play through. There's also a multiplayer mode and some DLC to expand on the story as well. There is a lot of reason to revisit this game. All in all, Resident Evil 5 is better than its reputation suggests. It is certainly a flawed game. Some of the criticism is warranted, but it is by no means a bad one. If you find a friend to play through it with you, there's a lot of fun here. You can also play through it single player with upgraded weapons after that to alleviate some of the frustration caused by Sheva. There's a lot of fun to be had here. It has massive shoes to fill as it comes as a sequel to arguably the best game in the series. It does not measure up to 4, but how could it? Take it for what it is, and it is an enjoyable and over-the-top ride. Resident Evil 5 is not difficult to get a hold of at all. The original version was for the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3. It runs natively at 720p and 30 frames per second. It should be cheap to get a hold of nowadays. It did come to the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One as well, with a resolution boost to 1080p and a frame rate boost to 60 frames per second. It is a better option for console gamers as it is a smoother playing experience. You can also get the PC version on Steam as well, and it is the best looking and playing version of the game. It is not difficult to get it running at its highest settings at 60 FPS either. Whatever you decide to play it on, do give it a try. It's a damn good, if flawed, game. Thank you for watching, everybody. Please like, comment, and subscribe down below. Ring the bell to make sure you get future updates from this channel. And share this video. That would help me out a lot. Talk to you later, everybody. Doomdog out.